start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18 Number. Analysis. Over the last several decades, scholars have developed standards for how best to create, organize, present, and preserve digital information for future generations. What has remained neglected for the most part, however, are the needs of people with disabilities. As a result, many of the otherwise most valuable digital resources are useless for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, as well as for people who are blind, have low vision, or have difficulty distinguishing particular colors. While professionals working in educational technology and commercial web design have made significant progress in meeting the needs of such users, some scholars creating digital projects all too often fail to take these needs into account. This situation would be much improved if more projects embraced the idea that we should always keep the largest possible audience in mind as we make design decisions, ensuring that our final product serves the needs of those with disabilities as well as those without. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18 Number 01. Capuchin's New World monkeys that live in large social groups will, in captivity, trade with people all day long, especially if food is involved. New World monkey Capuchin. I give you this rock and you give me a treat to eat. If you put two monkeys in cages next to each other, and offer them both slices of cucumber for the rocks they already have, they will happily eat the cucumbers. If, however, you give one monkey grapes instead, grapes being universally preferred to cucumbers, the monkey that is still receiving cucumbers will begin to throw them back at the experimenter. Even though she is still getting paid the same amount for her effort of sourcing rocks, and so her particular situation has not changed, the comparison to another makes the situation unfair. Furthermore, she is now willing to abandon all gains, the cucumbers themselves, to communicate her displeasure to the experimenter. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18 Number 02. The mind has parts that are known as the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is very fast to act and doesn't deal with emotions. It deals with memories of your responses to life, your memories and recognition. However, the conscious mind is the one that you have more control over. You think. You can choose whether to carry on a thought or to add emotion to it, and this is the part of your mind that lets you down frequently because, fueled by emotions, you make the wrong decisions time and time again. When your judgment is clouded by emotions, this puts in biases and all kinds of other negativities that hold you back. Scared of spiders? Scared of the dark? There are reasons for all of these fears, but they originate in the conscious mind. They only become real fears when the subconscious mind records your reactions. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18 Number 03. Many of the first models of cultural evolution drew noticeable connections between culture and genes by using concepts from theoretical population genetics and applying them to culture. Cultural patterns of transmission, innovation, and selection are conceptually likened to genetic processes of transmission, mutation, and selection. However, these approaches had to be modified to account for the differences between genetic and cultural transmission. For example, we do not expect the cultural transmission to follow the rules of genetic transmission strictly. If two biological parents have different forms of a cultural trait, their child is not necessarily equally likely to acquire the mother's or father's form of that trait. Further, a child can acquire cultural traits not only from its parents but also from non-parental adults and peers. Thus, the frequency of a cultural trait in the population is relevant beyond just the probability that an individual's parents had that trait. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18 Number 04. It's not news to anyone that we judge others based on their clothes. In general, studies that investigate these judgments find that people prefer clothing that matches expectations. Surgeons in scrubs, little boys in blue, with one notable exception. A series of studies published in an article in June 2014 in the Journal of Consumer Research explored observers' reactions to people who broke established norms only slightly. Journal of Consumer Research 20146. In one scenario, a man at a black tie affair was viewed as having higher status and competence when wearing a red bow tie. The researchers also found that valuing uniqueness increased audience members' ratings of the status and competence of a professor who wore red sneakers while giving a lecture. The results suggest that people judge these slight deviations from the norm as positive because they suggest that the individual is powerful enough to risk the social costs of such behaviors. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18, Number 05. Nearly 8 of 10 U.S. adults believe there are good foods and bad foods. 108. Unless we're talking about spoiled stew, poison mushrooms, or something similar, however, no foods can be labeled as either good or bad. There are, however, combinations of foods that add up to a healthful or unhealthful diet. Consider the case of an adult who eats only foods thought of as good, for example, raw broccoli, apples, orange juice, boiled tofu, and carrots. Although all these foods are nutrient-dense, they do not add up to a healthy diet because they don't supply a wide enough variety of the nutrients we need. Or take the case of the teenager who occasionally eats fried chicken, but otherwise stays away from fried foods. The occasional fried chicken isn't going to knock his or her diet off track. But the person who eats fried foods every day, with few vegetables or fruits, and loads up on supersized soft drinks, candy, and chips for snacks has a bad diet. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18, Number 06. To help decide what's risky and what's safe, who's trustworthy and who's not, we look for social evidence. From an evolutionary view, following the group is almost always positive for our prospects of survival. If everyone's doing it, it must be a sensible thing to do, explains famous psychologist and best-selling writer of Influence, Robert Cialdini. Influence Robert Cialdini. While we can frequently see this today in product reviews, even subtler cues within the environment can signal trustworthiness. Consider this: when you visit a local restaurant, are they busy? Is there a line outside, or is it easy to find a seat? It is a hassle to wait, but a line can be a powerful cue that the food's tasty, and these seats are in demand. More often than not, it's good to adopt the practices of those around you. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18, Number 07. One of the most powerful tools to find meaning in our lives is reflective journaling, thinking back on and writing about what has happened to us. In the 1990s, Stanford University researchers asked undergraduate students on spring break to journal about their most important personal values and their daily activities. Others were asked to write about only the good things that happened to them in the day. 1990 Stanford University. 3 weeks later, the students who had written about their values were happier, healthier, and more confident about their ability to handle stress than the ones who had only focused on the good stuff. 3. By reflecting on how their daily activities supported their values, students had gained a new perspective on those activities and choices. Little stresses and hassles were now demonstrations of their values in action. Suddenly, their lives were full of meaningful activities. And all they had to do was reflect and write about it, positively reframing their experiences with their personal values. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18, Number 08. My colleagues and I ran an experiment testing 2 different messages meant to convince thousands of resistant alumni to make a donation. One message emphasized the opportunity to do good, donating would benefit students, faculty, and staff. The other emphasized the opportunity to feel good, donors would enjoy the warm glow of giving. The two messages were equally effective. In both cases, 6.5% of the unwilling alumni ended up donating. 6.5%. Then we combined them, because two reasons are better than one. Except they weren't. When we put the two reasons together, the giving rate dropped below 3%. 3%. Each reason alone was more than twice as effective as the two combined. The audience was already skeptical. When we gave them different kinds of reasons to donate, we triggered their awareness that someone was trying to persuade them and they shielded themselves against it. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18 Number 09. The common blackberry, Rubus allegheniensis, has an amazing ability to move manganese from one layer of soil to another using its roots. Common blackberry, Rubus allegheniensis. This may seem like a funny talent for a plant to have, but it all becomes clear when you realize the effect it has on nearby plants. Manganese can be very harmful to plants, especially at high concentrations. Common blackberry is unaffected by damaging effects of this metal and has evolved two different ways of using manganese to its advantage. Common blackberry. First, it redistributes manganese from deeper soil layers to shallow soil layers using its roots as a small pipe. Second, it absorbs manganese as it grows, concentrating the metal in its leaves. When the leaves drop and decay, their concentrated manganese deposits further poison the soil around the plant. For plants that are not immune to the toxic effects of manganese, this is very bad news. Essentially, the common blackberry eliminates competition by poisoning its neighbors with heavy metals. Common blackberry. The common blackberry has an ability to increase the amount of manganese in the surrounding upper soli, which makes the nearby soil quite deadly for other plants. Common blackberry. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18 Number 10. There is often a lot of uncertainty in the realm of science, which the general public finds uncomfortable. They don't want informed guesses, they want certainties that make their lives easier, and science is often unequipped to meet these demands. In particular, the human body is fantastically complex, and some scientific answers can never be provided in black or white terms. All this is why the media tends to oversimplify scientific research when presenting it to the public. In their eyes, they're just giving people what they want as opposed to offering more accurate but complex information that very few people will read or understand. A perfect example of this is how people want definitive answers as to which foods are good and bad. Scientifically speaking, there are no good and bad foods, rather, food quality exists on a continuum, meaning that some foods are better than others when it comes to general health and well-being. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18 Number 11. Nancy Lowry and David Johnson conducted an experiment to study a teaching environment where 5th and 6th graders were assigned to interact on a topic. Nancy Lowry, David Johnson 5-6. With one group, the discussion was led in a way that built an agreement. With the second group, the discussion was designed to produce disagreements about the right answer. Students who easily reached an agreement were less interested in the topic, studied less, and were less likely to visit the library to get additional information. The most noticeable difference, though, was revealed when teachers showed a special film about the discussion topic during lunchtime. Only 18% of the agreement group missed lunchtime to see the film, but 45% of the students from the disagreement group stayed for the film. 1845. The thirst to fill a knowledge gap to find out who was right within the group can be more powerful than the thirst for slides and jungle gyms. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 1, 2025, Unit 18 Number 12. A woman named Rhonda who attended the University of California at Berkeley had a problem. Berkeley, California. Rhonda. She was living near campus with several other people, none of whom knew one another. When the cleaning people came each weekend, they left several rolls of toilet paper in each of the 2 bathrooms. However, by Monday all the toilet paper would be gone. It was a classic tragedy of the commons situation. Because some people took more toilet paper than their fair share, the public resource was destroyed for everyone else. After reading a research paper about behavior change, Rhonda put a note in one of the bathrooms asking people not to remove the toilet paper, as it was a shared item. Rhonda. To her great satisfaction, one roll reappeared in a few hours, and another the next day. In the other note-free bathroom, however, there was no toilet paper until the following weekend, when the cleaning people returned. MTC. Good job.